Welcome to Ground Control. I wanted to take this F-35 beginner park jet out one more time, do one last review video on it so I could better show you the capability of this little park jet. This is my absolute favorite beginner park jet that I've flown so far. Now the last session that I had out, review part 2, I think it was on the second flight video, I got the high alpha dialed out of it on the transmitter so it would fly nice and straight and level, and I think I had it in intermediate mode during that second flight the whole time. So I started thinking about it last night, and I thought, you know, when I did the first flight video and it was doing a significant amount of high alpha right off the bat, you know, it was, I guess it was programmed that way in the transmitter. And so it made it very difficult to make tight turns in low rate mode. And I started thinking about it last night, and I thought, well, you know, in low rate mode it really limits the movement of the control surfaces on the elevons. And it's already using so much movement in the elevons to produce the high alpha. So that doesn't leave much left, you know, in movement on the elevons to make it turn when it's in a high alpha state in low rate mode. So I thought, you know, I need to demonstrate this again in low rate mode, because now that I have the high alpha dialed out of it in low rate mode, it will have the full movement of the elevons to make the turn. So my guess is when we take it out and launch it in the air on the first flight in low rate mode, I'll do the first flight in low rate mode and the second flight in high rate mode. And I'm going to try to do some closer proximity flying with it. But my guess is this is not going to have any problem with the turn radius in low rate mode now that the high alpha is dialed out of it. And the other thing is, the one thing I love about this, the way they've got this transmitter set up, is that it remembers my trim in the radio. Even after having this powered off for a couple of days, the plane and the transmitter powered off for a couple of days, put the battery back in the plane, power on the transmitter, bind it up, throw it in the air, and it remembers my trim from my last flight session. So that is absolutely awesome. I'm going to try and get it fine-tuned out there today as well, to get it flying completely level, level attitude, straight and level in at cruise speed. So we'll see if we get that dialed in as good as possible on this transmitter, and once you get it all fine-tuned, your transmitter will keep those settings for you. I don't know if I've seen another one of these stock ready-to-fly planes with these stock transmitters remember the trim from flight to flight. It seemed to me, if I remember correctly, every time I powered off the transmitter and powered it back on, I had to retrim it. So you can get it all fine-tuned, and then you're ready to go for the next flight session. You're not having to spend 30 seconds of every flight getting it tuned in again. So that is absolutely awesome. Also, if you bring this plane in, in a high alpha mode when you're landing, you can really slow it down. And if you have a little bit of a headwind, you can almost land this vertically. So if you guys don't watch the entire video, watch the landing after the second flight in this session. Watch the landing. I had a 2 to 4 mile per hour wind out there in the last flight session, and coming in for a landing on the second flight, I think it kicked up closer to 4 miles per hour than 2 miles per hour, and I was almost able to land this vertically with a little high alpha put into it coming in on landing. It's just an absolute fun plane to fly. I know it's a beginner park jet, but even if you have a lot of experience, and I consider myself intermediate level when it comes to piloting RC aircraft, but even if you're an advanced pilot, these beginner planes, whether it's park jet, bush plane, warbird, they are a lot of fun to fly. So even if you're extremely experienced at flying RC planes, don't discount the amount of fun you're going to have flying one of these beginner planes, because I have an absolute blast with this one. So I will see you out at the field.
Okay, I'm back out here with the KF F-35 micro beginner park jet, and I want to get it back in the air now that I have it all trimmed out And I wanted to test it again in low rate. Now that I've taken the high alpha out of it, let's see how well it turns in low rate, because it was atrocious with the high alpha input into it in low rate. So let me set my timer. Alright, so timer started. Alright, so let me make sure I've got it in low rate. Yeah, low rate. Alright, throttle up to about 80%. Get it in the air. Let's go. Takes right off. Okay, now we're in low rate. Oh, that's a much better turn, isn't it? Nothing like, oh yeah, nothing like what it was with the high alpha. So yeah, I was thinking about that last night before I brought it out, and I thought, you know, now that I've got the high alpha pulled out of it, I bet it'll have a decent turn rate in low rate mode, because in high alpha mode it's using so much of the elevon control, the movement of the elevons, to create the high alpha, that it had very little left for turns. So low rate is still a pretty wide turn radius, but nothing like it was. So it is definitely completely flyable in low rate mode once you dial out the high alpha in it. And like I said, this is the easiest to fly beginner park jet that I have had the opportunity to test so far. Look at that. Look how slow. And even with the high alpha dialed out of it, this plane is not a speedster by any stretch of the imagination. So, but it's very stable. The gyro does an excellent job of keeping the plane in the air even during really slow flight. So, and it'll warn you. So when you start seeing wing wag out of it, then you know that you're going a little bit too slow, and just add a little more throttle. But yeah, this is all completely in low rate mode right now, so not bad at all. It has a wide enough turn radius for a beginner to be comfortable with. Yeah, that's full stick deflection right there to the left, and full stick deflection right there to the right. I'm getting a little bit of wind assist turning this direction, but completely stable, very forgiving. You know, if you're flying too slow, and it's just really an easy little beginner park jet to fly. They did a really good job on this one. The only thing that I miss is having a manual mode. That's the only thing that I miss. I wish they had a low rate, a high rate, and a manual mode. But you just have low rate, high rate. But it was designed to be a beginner park jet, so I can't fault them for that. But just an exceptional flying little micro park jet. You know, look at that. High alpha. Now we're gonna speed up a little bit, because I was about at stall speed there. But no problems in low rate. So I thought we would fly this first flight in low rate, and then put it in high rate for the second flight, and see how it handles in high rate again, with the high alpha dialed out of it. Look at that. See, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for a low rate. Not bad at all. Very comfortable. You add a little bit of throttle in the turn, and that also helps it to turn. But look at that. Isn't that stable? Even with this little stock transmitter, I mean, it's not real twitchy or anything. It's pretty darn smooth on this little stock transmitter. I'm not having any problems with it at all. I don't think a beginner will have any problems with it. Look at that. And look, and it flies so slow. So if you're looking for a beginner park jet, this is the one that I would recommend. I've flown a few of them, you know, these little factory park jets. And they've all been pretty much beginner park jets. But this one, I think does the best job. Look at that, for a beginner. It's not fast. It's very forgiving. The gyro is very, very good on it. You gotta, as long as you dial out the high alpha, you've got a decent turn radius and low rate mode, and you have a very good turn radius in high rate mode. And then if you want to do stunts with it, it has the stunt button, and this is the only one I've seen that does the outside loop. That is pretty funny to watch. But look at this. Is that slow or is that slow? And I only have, a 2 to 4 mile per hour wind out here this morning. That's typically what I have when I come out to fly. You can almost rinse and repeat for a couple hours during the morning before the wind picks up. It'll be 2 to 4 miles per hour. Sometimes a little bit more. But look at that. Excellent beginner park jet. So far, this little beginner park jet is the one that I would recommend. There's my timer. So let's do another circuit and bring it in for a landing. But just an exceptional flying little beginner park jet, and so far it is the smoothest on the controls that I have flown so far. And let's see if we can bring it in. Whoop! Whoa! That wasn't a very good landing. But the smoothest on the controls that I have flown so far, which is great for a beginner. And like I said, I did not have to make any adjustments on any of the linkage. All I had to do was put in some trim in the radio to pull out the high alpha. So, let me turn this off. Alright, got my timer shut off. So, set up my timer again, put another battery pack in it, and then we'll put it in high rate mode and see how it handles without the high alpha in it and high rate mode, since I just got to test that out a little bit last time I had it out. So let's do that. See you in a minute. Okay, I got my timer started. Got another battery pack in it. Let's make sure we're in high rate mode. There we go, high rate mode. So let's give it 80% throttle and a little chuck and get it in the air. And there we go, and we are in high rate mode. Oh yeah. Much tighter turn radius in high rate mode. See that? Yeah. I'll get too low to the ground. Yeah, so for a beginner, when you're first starting out, keep it in low rate mode. And of course, if it gets too twitchy for you, because the turn radius is much, much sharper in high rate mode. So it can be a little bit twitchy in high rate mode. Look at that, it's so slow. You can just press the button and go right back into low rate mode if you want to. But I like high rate mode. That's what I like to fly in, but I'm not a beginner with park jets either. Park jets are one of the things that I started with. A wing. Z-84 wing was my first fixed wing, and then I started designing and building my own park jets. So I've got a lot of time on park jets. But phenomenal little beginner park jet, man. I've been waiting for a really good beginner park jet, other than the ones I've designed and built. And this is the best factory one that I have flown so far. Look at that. That is awesome. Maybe I need another tick of up trim in it. I think, yeah, I do. Let me gain some altitude and there, put a couple clicks of up trim in it. Let's see what we got now. Look how slow. That is pretty cool. And, oh, and I wanted to tell you, that looks pretty good there. It's holding its altitude pretty good at cruising speed. I wanted to tell you, I brought it out this morning. You know, it's been sitting idle since the last flight session, which was 2 or 3 days ago. And so I brought it out, put a battery pack in it, powered on the plane, powered on the transmitter, and, well, you saw me throw it in the air in low rate mode, and the transmitter held my trim that I had set. So I think that is the first. See, it's got a little wing wag there. I was going a little bit too slow. But this is the first transmitter I think I have seen on one of these little ready-to-fly microplanes where the transmitter remembers my trim setting from power cycle to power cycle. I don't think I've seen that before. I wish they were all like that, where you could get it, you could bring it out, get it all trimmed out in the radio, and then no worries. Every time you power on the plane, power on the transmitter, it has your previous trim setting set. A little wing wag there. But kudos to them for remembering my trim settings on the radio. You don't want to spend time every time you power on the plane and the transmitter, spending the first 30 seconds of a flight getting it trimmed out again, you know. So it's great that they set the firmware up on it so that it remembers your trim. But just a really cool little park jet. And I'm giving it about half stick deflection right there. I wasn't giving it a whole lot of stick deflection. There's about half stick right there on the turn. But just a fun, really fun little beginner park jet. I highly recommend it. Look at that. High alpha. You know, I mean, the stunt buttons are cool. You know, for doing rolls and loops and stuff like that when you don't have a manual mode. But I just like coming in and flying these things around slowly and doing some high alpha and stuff with them, doing touch and goes. It's just a fun little plane. And it flies slow enough that you could do stuff like that, you know, without worrying about it. Look at that. You get a little wing wag. That gyro is doing an excellent job of keeping that plane in the air. Excellent. Look at that. Right over my head. Yeah, the gyro is just rock solid on it. The only time that you get any wing wag out of it, boo! The only time you get any wing wag out of it really is when you're going too slow. And oh, there's my timer, and the gyro is just fighting like crazy to keep the plane in the air. But awesome little beginner park jet, guys. I am really happy that Banggood sent this to me for review because it's the best one that I have flown so far. All right, so let's see if we can bring it in and get a decent landing this time. I don't know. Oh, that wasn't too bad. That was almost, if I'd had a little more wind, that would have been a vertical landing. All right, let's go over here and turn off this darn timer. But was that fun or was that fun? And I was coming into a 2 to 4, probably pushing closer to 4 right now. A little 4-mile-an-hour wind, and I could almost set this thing down vertically. The gyro is just that good. So there'll be links to it in the show notes. This is the last review video on this. From now on, it's just going to be fun. So, but I highly recommend this as a beginner park jet. It's my favorite one so far, and like I said, I have flown a few of them. You know, exceptional flight, excellent gyro, extremely stable in the air, not too fast, has cool stunts. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And right now, the price makes it a good value, so don't wait too long. The more popular this gets, the higher the price is going to be. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.